Right, well, I can't remember which intro I was going to use for this. It's a retro discussion, isn't it? Oh, okay, yeah, quick, we'll pop this on. Yes, there we go. It was that one. It's definitely that one. Okay, fortunately, once again, I've got a fantastic trio of guests, but welcome to another retro review. First time I've done two in a single evening because I decided to do a Born on the 4th of July special, the film by Oliver Stone. But let's get cracking because we're on a bit of a time limit tonight. My first guest is the man with no avatar, the Inside Man, sitting in the darkness as per normal. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. So good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone.
You literally do sound like you're in the cave of Medusa as we speak.
I am actually, yeah.
You were visualizing it earlier, so that is entirely possible. We also have all the way from Australia, but next time he's going to be on the channel, he's going to be here, sitting next to me.
Sunny England, yes. But
I'm afraid it was really hot, mate, but now it's pissing down with rain, just in time for your arrival. So,
yeah, I'm a rain god. I bring it with me everywhere I go.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Well, we really appreciate it. Whoa. Oh, sorry. I need to mute that other window. Okay. So we've got a couple of people in the chat already. We got Keith, of course.
Keith and Dave Macy, good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us.
And I think Dave Macy just sent me a Facebook friend request, which I accidentally accepted. So you're on my friends list now, Dave. By the way, membership to the Lance Nielsen friend list, that's £20 payable by.
Now, why didn't I think of monetizing mine?
Yeah, well, you've only got 17 friends. So
four. Not that many.
There's £100 right there.
Yeah, three of them are Russian girls you met on the website.
Yeah, so, exactly that.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful ones, really beautiful ones too.
Yeah. They look
very handsome, very handsomely moustached.
For all members of the Russian shot putting team. Oh, we lost Matt. Connection gone. What's happened there? The Russians must have tuned in and cut him off.
Oh, I think so.
We'll probably get him back. He did say the weather in is bad in Melbourne at the moment.
Oh, really?
So, so he's possibly could be a weather thing. Hang on, we got him back. He's back. There he is.
I'm back. Sorry, fellas.
Did lightning strike?
No, my big fat fingers hit the wrong damn closed the wrong window. So
I hate it when Hugo's paws do that. I understand. So well, we're going to talk about one of my favorite westerns and another western today.
Yes.
We'll
wait for the end to tell us which one is your favorite.
Well. Also, for those people watching in chat, and you can state at any time. We're going to make this a bit interactive, like last time. You can vote whether you prefer Kevin Costner's WYATT or whether you prefer Val Kilmer's Tombstone. I'll say Val Kilmer.
Let's also increase it. Who was the better WYATT? Not just the better film, but who was the better WYATT and who was the better doc?
That's interesting. Interesting.
Who was the better doc? Because I think what's his name? The actor who Dennis Quaid and
Dennis Quaid. He did a good job.
Val Kilmer. I think there could be some different opinions. Let's get people voting on that as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we'd like to hear your opinions on the best doc holiday of the two movies, the best WYATT of the two movies, and which movie for you is the leader and why. But let's talk about the films individually first. Matthew, you're the guest who's furthest away, at least this week. So which one would you like to dive into first?
That's a good question, because to me the two are so intricately linked to talk with one about without the other.
Well, I mean,
there's so much to say.
We can break protocol and we can talk about them in tandem. I don't mind doing that if you feel it's going to work better.
Yeah, I think let's talk about them in tandem, because I think they work in tandem, which is why we kind of picked them. Because the curious thing about these films is that they were absolutely competing movies.
Yeah.
And I think, interestingly enough, what's one of the things that really stuck out for me in researching this film and learning about it, the movie of Tombstone, is that actually Kevin Costner was attached to Tombstone.
Yes, he
right
was
at the very beginning.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
He was originally the guy who was supposed to play Wyatt in the Tombstone film.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I believe that he turned it down because he didn't have complete control.
I believe that's true.
Yeah,
he didn't have. Yeah, there were things he wanted changes in the script, and at that time, this film was going to be the directorial debut of Kevin Jarre, who was the screenwriter, and apparently the Tombstone script was hot property in Hollywood.
Yeah.
If ever it was going around, everyone wanted to be on it because it was going to be. Because I think Kevin Jarre had just come off of Glory.
Yeah.
And he was the hot new kid. He was going to be his directorial debut. The script was extremely strong, and to this day, the cast of Tombstone still talk about how that original screenplay was much bigger than the movie we got, and also a lot more epic, and was an excellent, very well researched script, and was going to be the definitive, Wyatt Earp movie. And I think you're absolutely right. Kevin wanted more control, couldn't get it, and so jumped off and hauled his mate Lawrence Kasdan, who he did Silverado with.
Yeah,
and they started writing their own competing project. So out of one was born two. This is where the Hydra's head split, and you cut off one, and another took its place, and now we ended up with two Wyatt Earps being made almost at exactly the same time. Now, what was the other film we spoke about that was being shot at the same time? Robin Hoods. That's right.
They were. They really were.
They were shot around the same period. Now, Tombstone dropped first.
It did. It was completed first, but they were being shot around the same.
Directed by Greek director George Matos. I've got a lot of stories I can tell you about him, so we'll get to those. People say a lot of it was directed by Kurt Russell, but there are some people who strongly disagree with that. We'll come back to that. Music by Bruce Brofton, who of course did Young Sherlock Holmes, among other things.
And it is probably his best. It's one of his best scores.
I think it's an amazing score.
I think it's his. I think it's his best score.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
I do prefer. I've got to be honest with you. I do prefer Young Sherlock Holmes. I mean, that's the one for me. But I think with if you compare the two scores, I've got a little something to say about James Newton Howard's score that might be a little bit controversial, but.
Do you want to come back to it? Do you want to come back?
Yeah. But Bruce Broughton's score, fantastic. I think. Let me
do a sort of quick overview of both films. So Tombstone was shot cinematography by William A. Fraker, best known probably for the Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Yeah. He did Irreconcilable Differences, which was a pretty big hit at the time, and after Tombstone, Street Fighter, and thereafter his career dwindled. I'm being a bit mean there. So then, of course, we have Wyatt Earp, directed by Lawrence Kasdan, long-time Kevin Costner collaborator, as we know, because Kasdan cast him first in Fandango before even Silverado. And then
a very fine screenwriter and filmmaker is Lawrence Kasdan.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Lawrence Kasdan on every level. It was cinematography was shot by Owen Roseman, who died this year, actually, at the age of 86. He is best known for 3 Days of the Condor, Absence of Malice, The Addams Family, the 1981 version, Grand Canyon, 1991. That film is beautifully shot.
Yeah, great.
He had an honorary Academy Award in 2017, and he also worked on The French Connection. I don't know if it was as DOP or whether he was part of the DOP unit. The music was James Newton Howard. James Newton Howard is a hit and miss composer for me. He's done some great scores and some that are a little bit dull.
I think for me, James Newton Howard, I think is Actually, I think he's one of the most marvelous composers in Hollywood. He has got some amazing scores, and I think he's a little underrated. I think
my favorite scores of his would be Unbreakable. I also like the score for The Fugitive is very good. The Harrison Ford one. Primal Fear's got a very good score. Glenn Ross, very good score.
The Village is probably my favorite of his.
Yeah, definitely not a top favorite film of mine. I knew the twist in the first 10 minutes, but it's.
Have either of you listened to the expanded score on this one?
No, I didn't know there was one, but if there is one, I need to get it.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. If you listen to it without the movie, and I've got a little bit of a theory about this, and I think I might be right. I think that the score, the music was actually scored prior to the movie, and I think it might have been a repurposed or reappropriated score for this movie, and that there's only half a dozen tracks that were actually scored specifically for this movie.
That's interesting.
And there's a little bit of a clue on the expanded soundtrack.
Okay.
And that is the kind of the sort of temporary music that he used as his template, all kind of synth orchestra stuff.
Yeah.
As his kind of blueprint prior to the actual orchestration and the actual writing of the score itself. They're like these strange little sort of Western bits, and if you compare those to the bits that are actually in the movie, take those out, listen to the rest of the score, it sounds like it could be a war movie soundtrack, or it sounds like it could be an epic sci-fi movie soundtrack.
Yeah,
if
right.
you listen to it on its own, there's some real military stuff in there that just doesn't seem to go.
Okay.
Maybe it was a score that was started originally for another project that went.
I think it was. I really think it was, and it's and I'm trying to find out a little bit more about it because I can't find anything out about.
Be good to see if there were any war films being made around that period that maybe got canned, or
or
maybe he got booted off.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a rejected score for something else, but it really does sound like it's for a completely different movie.
Right.
I love the score. I love it. I don't think it fits.
Interesting. Well, it's one of those scores that I actually listen to the WYATT score probably more than I listen to the Tombstone score. I like it as a score. I think it's a beautiful piece of work on it in and of itself. To listen to it's really nice. But I tend to agree that sometimes it doesn't quite fit the film. Not quite. So yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Just sticking with pre-production, and this is interesting. I didn't know this before. The WYATT film before Costner came on board, so it was already in some stage of development when he jumped ship from one project to the other, was originally meant to be a 6-hour miniseries until Kevin Costner joined the cast. So that would have been for television.
Right.
Costner then proceeded to use his considerable clout to convince most of the major studios to refuse to distribute the competing film, aka Tombstone, which affected casting on the rival project. I mean, let's compare casts for a second, because both of these films, in terms of actors with clout, I would say are probably on a pretty similar path.
Similar basis. Yeah. But I think, the thing that happened is that the Kevin Costner WYATT, from all accounts that I've read, is that everyone very much thought that with what's his name, with Lawrence Kasdan directing, everyone thought that the WYATT Kevin Costner one was going to be the
definitive.
It was going to be the big one. It was going to be the expensive one, and in fact had the much bigger budget as well. And interesting enough, like Kevin, there did seem to be this active thing where Kevin Costner actually, which is kind of a dick move for Kevin.
I have to agree.
To try to, and I think it ultimately bit him in the ass. But the fact that he tried to get the other one to try to derail it. And but it seemed in derailing it, in attempting to derail it, he actually gave the movie, or the Tombstone film, most of its strengths. Yeah. And one of them was the costumes, because for one of the things that's amazing about Tombstone, right, is that I think the costuming was so different to what we'd normally seen in a Western. And what happened was Kevin Costner's film, having the bigger budget and everything, they bought up and hired all the Western, all the wardrobe rental places. They just hired it all out in one big hit, so that, because one, they needed it, and two, they really wanted to make the stuff scarce.
I bet they hired out the shit they didn't use.
Yeah, and they did.
Yeah.
And what happened is the costume designer, I heard this in an interview with the costume designer from Tombstone, who actually ended up being the director of those ridiculous vampire romance films, the first one.
Yeah, I'll tell you who it is. Carry on.
Yeah, and she actually said they ended up having to go to like historical recreators and reenactment people to get costumes. And what happened is those people are so focused on authenticity. What they ended up doing is bringing all these costumes with a lot more color and vibrancy, which is actually more true of the 1860s. There's a lot of color. So you have a very drab gray, browns, blacks in white earth, which is what the costume houses had.
This is the costume designer. That's the costume designer from Tombstone.
Oh, I'm thinking of the production designer. Sorry, my mistake.
Okay.
And the and whereas the reenactors have a lot of color, and so it actually ended up working better for Tombstone and gave it a far more authentic, more colorful, and more realistic and memorable look.
Yeah.
For that reason. So in a way, again, in trying to derail the other one, Kevin Costner actually gave Tombstone one of its best strengths, which is his costumes.
That I think that's karma.
That's
karma. That's really karma.
Let's look at the 6 leads of each film first. So 6 leads, because you've got 6 leads certainly in Tombstone. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, whose voice alone is 2 points on IMDb on any rating. Bill Paxton, one of the most beloved people in the film industry. Powers Booth, Michael Biehn. Now that's 6 powerhouse actors,
real good,
and some interesting egos there. Michael Biehn's done some great interviews, some very heartfelt.
Yeah, I've seen those
interviews. And it's really interesting to hear what he was going through. But he talked about Tombstone and and who he got on with on set and who he didn't, who he spoke to and who he didn't. RTN says, I struggled to finish WYATT, but I was engaged for the whole runtime of Tombstone, a much more entertaining film. We'll save our personal opinions until the end.
Yeah.
And especially Kilmer as Holiday. So that's 6 actors. I'll get into supporting and cameos in a bit, but we'll do the leads on WYATT as well.
Yeah.
So the leads on WYATT are slightly different, but you've still got 3 powerhouse actors: Gene Hackman, Kevin Costner, Dennis.
I think those 2 alone were probably. I think that those were their prestige pulls. Was Gene Hackman and
because when this was made, Bill Pullman did not have the star power he has now.
No, he didn't.
Tom Sizemore was on the rise, but did not have the star power he has now. Mark Harmon was a known face.
Yeah, he was kind of one of those all-Americans, stalwart actors that you always saw.
But never a big theater guy, more of a TV movie guy, really. And his career was kind of plateauing at this point.
Yeah. 2 good female leads, Catherine O'Hara, who I absolutely love and would give my arm to get on this channel.
She's great.
Isabella Rossellini, who was a big name for European sales, certainly.
Yeah.
And then you have Jeff Fahey, who of course was also in Silverado, but not a particularly big name at that time. He was
he was the lawnmower man.
He was, yeah. Had that come out by then? I guess
it had.
That
was 91, I think.
Yeah, 91, 92, something like that.
Yeah. So, okay, sort of, I mean, dealing with the big names, for me, the stronger cast is in Tombstone.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But perhaps at the time, I think at the time, between Kevin and Gene Hackman and maybe Dennis Quaid, I think at the time, conventional thinking in that period might have thought that those were better. But I think history has revealed this cast to be the bigger one.
Yeah, I think because with Tombstone you have the ensemble cast. With WYATT, it literally is supporting cast.
It's a cast based around Costner.
That's right.
Whereas
it's like your 20, all your money went on Kevin, and then whatever money you had left, you could get your supports. Whereas it feels like everyone on Tombstone probably got a more even paycheck.
And also I think they gave equal credence to putting big names on both sides of the gangs. You know, they wanted some faces with the Johnny Ringos and the Clantons and so on.
Yeah.
If you look at the supporting cast of Tombstone, there were some very insightful casting choices. Now, at the time that this was shot, Stephen Lang was not a big name. I can't remember if The Hard Way was before or after this. I think The Hard Way was 1992.
I think it was just before.
He played the villain in that. And that, by the way, is a massively underrated film that we've definitely got to do a retro review of. Thomas Hayden Church was a complete unknown.
Yeah. And would soon become a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah. And then, of course, he also did Sideways, which really put him on the map. Joanna Pacula was known, but she wasn't huge. And she's gone on to be a femme fatale of some note. Billy Bob Thornton's role is basically a cameo.
Yeah, so, he's a day player, but talk about a memorable scene. That was the scene.
Yeah,
Billy Bob's scene was the scene that made me go, "Oh my god, this film is awesome. This character is awesome."
I'm sorry, I forgot you were there.
Yeah,
isn't that the line? Something like that.
Yeah, when he turns up on the street. Yeah.
You can go now. That was
Michael Rooker was he's quite an actor of note now. Like he's in the Guardian films
and The Walking Dead. He had a big role.
Yeah.
And he'd done some big movies before this. He had a great role in Mississippi Burning. And then you've also got Billy Zane, of course, who'd done a few things.
Jason Priestley, who was just off of
90210, who sadly had most of his scenes cut. And I would like to have seen his other scenes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them are restored in the director's cut that I thought I'd ordered and didn't get.
No, I don't think there's many of those scenes have been restored. I've looked into the scenes of the restoration. I haven't seen them, but I've looked into what they are. They're very minimal.
Two other actors that are great is Terry O'Quinn, who of course played the stepfather in the first Stepfather movie, which was a very good sort of horror film. And then you've got Frank Stallone doing a little role.
Wow, that was Frank Stallone at the beginning, the guy who has the fight with he gets knifed by Doc Holliday.
And then the other thing that they did really well is they got two big Western names in the film. You've got Robert Mitchum narrating the movie. You know his voice straight away. And then of course you have Charlton Heston, who plays the owner of the ranch where they say that they can hold up. And then there's a number of other kind of Western regulars, like Harry Carey Jr., who plays the marshal who gets killed. He's done loads of other Westerns. Thomas Arana was the hitman in The Bodyguard with the Whitney Houston film, who plays Frank Stillwell. He's pretty well known for playing villains, basically.
Oh, yeah. He was in Gladiator. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Gladiator. He's a good actor. He's one of those ones you put him on the screen, you can't take your eyes off him. He's got a great face. And a whole load of other semi-regulars from kind of, they'd been in old school Westerns like Grant James and Don Collier. All of these people have been in Westerns. Now, WYATT is also populated with those same guys, because if you look on the WYATT cast, you've got James Gammon, who's that guy with that great voice from Silverado. Mister, I don't know any of those names, but you've ridden into my camp. He's that guy.
Yeah,
terrible impression of him.
He's like a guy, isn't he? He's like a cowboy sort of ranch kind of gang member or something, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think he's pretty much a cowboy in real life. And then, other cast members that we didn't mention, Jo Beth Williams, of course, is very good. Mayor Winningham is,
She
one
pops
of
up
the
all the time.
Brat Pack, and she's still going now. Rex Lynn played one of the bad guys in Cliffhanger, which I just found my cinema ticket for.
Hey, you've got a
earlier.
cliffhanger. You've got a cliffhanger cast in Wide Open. You've got a cliffhanger cast in Tombstone with Michael Rooker.
God, yeah. So you do. That's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, you got Jim Caviezel as Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus Christ in Passion. He plays the younger Earp brother. He turns up for like 5 minutes.
We've got one of the Baldwin brothers. We've got
Tia Leone as the prostitute at the bar.
Martin Cove, Karate Kid. He's the bad guy in Karate Kid, and of course the Karate Kid TV show. And then again, there's a few, and I have been through this list and clicked on almost all of these. There's Jonathan Kasdan cameo.
Yeah.
There are quite a few old school Hollywood Western old timers turning up in little cameos here and there.
I think in Tombstone, I think there was actually a distant cousin of Wyatt Earp that actually did appear in that as well.
And he that's true, and he's called Wyatt Earp in the credits. So I was going to mention that earlier.
Yeah, I've always noticed there was a Wyatt Earp in the
he plays Billy Claiborne. So you remember when they go Billy, and the young one gets shot several times. Billy. I think Billy Claiborne's the one who tries to hide behind the horse and.
Is he also the one that bumps into Wyatt Earp and says, "I ain't your kid"? I know he goes, "Shove it up." He walks out the prison. He bumps into Wyatt Earp and he says, "I'll fight you right now." And he opens up his belt and he's got a gun in there. And Wyatt Earp whips it out and knocks him down with it. I think that's the same character.
I think that's the same guy. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. It's nice that they get the family or the descendants of people, of famous people.
Really nice touch.
On paper, looking at it, Tombstone maybe got the certainly retrospectively stronger cast, but on paper,
absolutely.
On paper at the time, these are two solid casts.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
If I was directing either movie and I looked at the call sheet, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I got a pretty good.
Hell yeah. But I think, retrospectively, and probably because of this film, Tombstone probably is probably lifted up all these actors to a higher level than ever before.
Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens. Yeah, I love that line.
One thing that Tombstone really, for me, works better than Wyatt Earp. Sorry, it's too early in the morning for my brain to function. One thing that really works better for me is that Tombstone is absolutely full of the vernacular of the day. Just like that person who put in that wonderful quote, "Skin that, smoke wagon."
Yeah.
All these phrases that were used in the 1800s, which obviously Kevin Jarre had heavily researched, are all within the movie. And even though they're phrases that don't mean anything to us now, we still know we can pick up what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think that is very present in Tombstone, but it's not so much in Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp is written a bit more conventionally, a bit more like a movie. But Tombstone has this edge to its writing, which is just so much better. And I think a far better economy of character. Like every scene that introduces you to, like the introduction to Wyatt Earp in Wyatt Earp is this long, protracted child to man listening to father. It takes a long time. Wyatt Earp gets off a train and then hits a guy who's hitting his horse and then says, "Piss off" to those marshals who want him. And you just, in like 3 minutes, not even, you have gone, I get this character completely. I know who this guy is.
And there's a whole history with Earp that we learn about in the way that's covered in Tombstone. Is they show that black and white footage.
Yeah.
At the beginning with Robert Mitchum narrating. And I have to admit, until I watched the film when I was older, I thought that footage was real. I thought it was footage of the day.
No, and but it was actually a combination.
It was mainly recreations. They had some.
Yeah.
And
old westerns as well.
They reshot some of it frame for frame, but with the actors in it.
Yes, and they
so
also used some old footage from some 1920s westerns, I think, as well.
Yeah,
And I think the Great Train Robbery, where that guy points his gun.
yeah,
I think they actually. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, but they did it so well you couldn't quite pick which was which.
But that was a good way of, in the same way that Midway could have just said Pearl Harbor was attacked. It's now 1942. And Japan plans to attack Midway. That's where I think Midway, the movie, should have started. They did the same thing with Tombstone. It's like WYATT got into some stuff. This happened. Now he's heading out to make his fortune out west in the town of Tombstone.
Yeah.
And then we're introduced straight into the Cowboys with that.
But I think it's such a great shame with somebody like Lawrence Kasdan, who just felt to me, in comparing the two, in Tombstone you had, well constructed dialogue. In EARP you had words.
Yeah,
and that's what it felt like to me. It was just words that were read. And I know that they did really stick to the script extremely strictly. But also, I think with the start of shooting with Tombstone, also I think they were quite rigid. I think the original director had stuck quite rigidly to the script, and that's when things started to fall behind. I think
this is Kevin Jarre.
Yeah, I think they were like 2 weeks behind within the first week or something like that.
And apparently his the way of they very, very quickly, the entire cast and crew realized this guy is not a director. And that's why he got removed, which must have been heartbreaking for him. But clearly, of the two productions, what is so strange is that Tombstone is the underdog. It was much more
complete underdog,
and so many production troubles. I mean, you had the original director removed. You're 2 weeks behind. The script gets butchered. You bring in George. How do you say his name?
Cosmatos.
Who's an interesting character, and we'll talk about him later. And you've got the star basically trying to hold it all together, and yet you've got a much smoother production over here. But in the end, I think the baptism of fire of Tombstone produced a far better movie.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
I think that a couple of kudos we've got to shout out where Tombstone is concerned. I mean, the production design for both films is very good. But I think Tombstone, and I've watched it so many times now, and of course, when I first saw it, I hadn't directed a feature film, and now I've done 3. Tried to do 7. But the editor, the editor, there was a lot of, you could tell from the montage sequences, they had a lot of footage for either incomplete scenes or stuff that was probably shot by Kevin that wouldn't fit in anywhere else. And it's like, but we could use this in a montage. Oh yeah, good idea. And then I think there was a lot of second unit of, can we just get loads of extra shots of cowboys being killed, because that will help us string this scene to this scene. Okay, good idea. And I can almost hear those decisions being made on set, and then a lot of that being. And now there were 3 editors that worked on it. Harvey Rosenstock, who did he's got 60 credits. He worked on 2 episodes of Tulsa King and did 12 of Ray Donovan, so he is still going strong. Then you have Roberto Silvi, who has 51 credits. Last one was Rory's Way. He did the 3 burials of Malique Estrada. That's a very strange Western. Terror in the Mall. Danny Webb was in that. The Cassandra Crossing. Escape to Victory. Piranha 2, The Spawning, directed by none other than James Cameron. And then
only
you had
2 weeks of it though.
Yeah, and you had Frank J. Erosti, who was the editor on Die Hard, RoboCop, Basic Instinct, Deep Blue Sea. Now, I wonder if they all worked together, or one was with one director, one was in another, and then the third was brought in to save the film. I'm going to guess it was the last. And I bet that the last editor to come on board was probably Frank.
Could be.
Yeah, I think they probably maybe had all kind of abandoned the project at some point or other and thrown their hands up in despair and said, I can't really sort of work with this material. And they brought somebody else on and somebody else on. And of course, the unions being what the unions are, everybody has to get credit. So,
Yeah.
But
it's funny that through that process, it really did made a good film. Like, that's what's so weird. Like, how did it become such a good film? Maybe because of the editing process, it had to really focus the movie, which often can really. And I think that's where WYATT falls down. I've written historical adaptions before, like with Ben Hall and many other Bushrangers stories. So in this genre, I know what it's like to read all this history and then try to adapt it into a screenplay and distill it. It's very hard because you get attached to all the history. You love all the stories.
Yeah.
And I think obviously cast and read, because really WYATT at 3 hours is, in fact, it's over. It's like 190 minutes. So it's over 3 hours long.
Wow. Yeah.
No, it's why
does it feel like it? Wow.
Yeah. Because it tries to fit in. It goes from WYATT as a 15-year-old to an 85-year-old, whereas Tombstone is only about his period in Tombstone. And I think that is what makes Tombstone better. And I think all historical adaptions are better when they try not to tell the cradle to the grave story, but rather they pick the most interesting moment in that character's life and they tell just that portion. And that's the better way to go.
And I think we're getting into our opinions on the film, which I kind of want to say for the wrap up. So shall we have a look at where they were shot?
The movie sets.
So for those people who haven't seen it before, this is the set for Tombstone, which I wrongly actually thought was the Silverado set. But the Silverado set was used for WYATT.
Well, this is you need to look for the Mescal. It's actually the Mescal set. It's called the Mescal movie set, and I think it's right next door to the one that you're looking at now. It's called Mescal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it though. This is like a big Western set. That's
oh yeah. Well, I think it might have been renamed, but it's
but you said it's Tucson.
Yeah, it's Tucson, in Tucson, Arizona.
This is it. This is the set.
Right. I think they must have renamed it, but it was called the Mescal film set at when they shot it. And
so it's in the Tucson mountains. I believe you unlike the Silverado set, guys, you can visit this.
Yeah. Mate, if I ever get to Arizona, I am going to that set. I have got to go to Tombstone.
Well, I mean, plus we already talked about our secret mission to bunk into the Silverado set, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Yeah. Don't think when we're in the police station. So the thing is, right, we run a YouTube channel and Your Honor. But yeah, so this is the Tombstone one. I'm guessing the place where Billy Bob Thornton gets kicked out the door is probably this one. But it's a very well structured set because if you look of the number of angles and streets, you've got a street.
Oh, you get so much mileage out of it.
You've got a different.
Imagine the coverage that you can get there.
Yeah, you've got a different street here. You've got a different street here.
However, unfortunately, the Mescal set fell into great disrepair, and there was actually a Kickstarter campaign or a GoFundMe page that ran about 3 years ago to stop it from being demolished and to get it restored. And I actually donated to that.
Nice. Well done.
I chipped in a few bucks because I just thought, no way, I don't want to see this set destroyed. It's movie history. Why don't people take care of it? But it costs money to maintain these old buildings.
And they've actually got the replica of a real tombstone from an old Western grave there, the one that they used in the movie.
Yeah.
The tombstone itself. Do you know what the epitaph on the tombstone says?
No.
It's one of the greatest epitaphs I think I've ever.
Go on.
Is that the one about the slugs?
Yeah, it's I think it goes something like, "Here lies less than more. 4 slugs from a 44. No less, no more."
No more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. That's
Great
in that
epitaph.
shot as the funeral procession's going past.
Yeah,
You see that? Yeah, it was great.
yeah.
So, Matt, here's the thing. So I've also found the Mescal movie set, which is actually a different location. But
So maybe it's not this one. Let's have a look at the Mescal.
I'm going to argue strongly that the one we're looking at is the Tombstone set.
Can we have a look at the Mescal set, please? Can you show us?
Yeah, you certainly can. And I'm going to say
because
they might
have shot. They might have shot in both.
Oh, no, that's possible because it said they shot in more than one location. So this is the Mescal movie set because they said that they shot some scenes in a separate set to make the town seem bigger. So it's quite possible that this single road was used for one scene.
Because I'm looking at the Facebook page of the Mescal movie set and I'm looking at it and I'm going, yeah. Or maybe it was used for the town, like when Doc Holliday flees that town after robbing the saloon.
Yeah, I mean, and it could have just also been that you see the street here is very wide.
Yeah.
So, and you remember you've got that shot where the street is very wide, whereas on the other set, it's a lot more enclosed. So that they may well have gone for this for one big shot and then...
I actually think more was shot at the Mescal than you understand because I'm looking at photos on the Mescal movie set's website. And
Can you pop the link in the private chat for that? And I'll pop it
I'm going to send you the photo page, and I'm recognizing lots of key buildings, including the Oriental Saloon, where he goes and knocks up Billy Bob. Yeah, put it in the. But check it out. Those of you who are watching, go check out. It's called the Mescal movie set Facebook page. Yeah, I've got it. I think, I mean, it looks very barren now, but obviously the production designers of Tombstone went in and heavily decked it out with tents and everything. I'm going to say to you that they used the Mescal set for, the Billy Bob Thornton and the main street for when you saw the really big wide street. You remember then they have a shot where they turn the corner and there's a lot more buildings. And I reckon that's the other set. Where they did the OK Corral. I reckon the OK Corral was... Yeah, and the whole walk through the town is the other set. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Now, let's talk about that for a second, because here's a thing that kind of annoyed me about Tombstone, and it's still a personal bugbear of mine. Yep. You've got, when they do the end credits, they cut back to this very long extended sequence of them walking through the OK Corral, building up to that gunfight, which is not in the movie. And it's like, by the way, guys, here's the extended version of that. We're just going to show you it in the credits. And I was watching it and I was thinking, I would have much rather this had come in the film where it was intended to be. Why have you stuck it on the end and given us the short version? Because that whole sequence was really captivating. I quite enjoyed watching it at the end of the movie. But I mean, it's also it's just a bit of business, really. It's just walking down a street. I mean, I know it's long, but they could have used it. They could have thrown in another 15, 20 seconds at least of them walking, because it is pretty small. And also there is that building on fire behind them. Yeah. And you think there's a story to that. I mean, it's beautiful imagery, but you're kind of going, did the Cowboys start that? What happened? You know, I think and there's a wonderful bit where they look round, but one of them looks round, but then they completely ignore it and carry on. I think if I remember correctly, and I may be wrong, so if I'm wrong, please don't crucify me, Facebook and YouTube. I think in history, a building caught fire at the same time as the guys went down. This is how much research Kevin Jarre had done. There was actually a building on fire at the time, that just before the OK Corral. And I think all he was doing was simply paying a nod to that and acknowledging that event, even though it had nothing to do with it. I think he was just going, there was a fire at this time, so let's show it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the kind of detail that Kevin Jarre brought to the Tombstone.
So so those are the two locations that
Yeah.
they use for,
But I think they're pretty
Tombstone.
close to each other. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is the location which was originally built for Silverado. It's one of my favorite.
It has been used in so many films.
It's been used in so many films, Cowboy versus Aliens, a whole load of other stuff. Now, it's the Sarah Palin movie ranch. It was for sale for $22 million not that long ago, including the luxury accommodations that are also on the estate. How you would maintain that ranch, I have no idea. I feel like I'd need to employ Kevin Costner full time to sort of with a cowboy family in situ. But it's a great set. One of the things that's great about it, you can see they've got the little train track there for it as well, is that you can shoot in 4 different directions and you get 4 different landscapes. Also, at a certain time of year, this gets covered in snow. And we covered this on our Silverado stream, that the first half of Silverado, when they're going through all the shots, there's snow everywhere. And that's because for the first 2 months of filming, there was snow everywhere.
Yeah. A problem that afflicted 310 to Yuma when they were shooting there. A big blanket of snow came in. This has also got a rail. It's also got a rail line, which really helps. I think they might have shot that film with that Western that Ed Harris directed, Appaloosa. I think they might have shot Appaloosa there as well.
That's a great film.
It is a good film. I didn't like it when I first saw it, but again, I saw it. Hey, just I'll let you know, just a few things that were also shot at the old Tuscan Studios and Mescal.
Yeah.
You had the original 310 to Yuma, the gunfight at the OK Corral, El Dorado in 67, The Outlaw Josie Wales, The Frisco Kid, Young Guns 2, the Mexican Plaza of Young Guns 2, Geronimo, Lightning Jack, Quick and the Dead, and we've also got The Young Riders, Geronimo, Buffalo Soldiers, and a remake of of Magnificent Seven. So there was a lot shot at Mescal in Arizona.
Right. Whereas this one was purpose built for Silverado, and it was
but it has been used extensively since.
But right now it's kind of dormant right now.
I think one of the things that really makes it hard for a lot of modern Westerns is that to bring people out to these beautiful locations and these big sets, they're so remote, which is what makes them magnificent on screen, but they're so remote. It's very expensive to house and bring cast and crew and costumes and everything out here. So they just don't get, the business, and of course the Western is not a genre that, is it's getting more popular with the Yellowstone series, but it's still has never reached its heights.
That's the closest town is Gallisto, which, as you can see, is a thriving.
It really is out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. I bet their burger restaurant did good business when Silverado was filming. So I mean, both of them have good production design, good sets, good costumes.
Absolutely. Great weaponry.
Great weaponry, but pretty good action scenes in both. Restrained action in more fancy action in Tombstone. Fun action in Tombstone.
I think actually for me, Tombstone is a stronger film up front. The first hour or more of Tombstone, I think, is probably its strongest. I think once it gets into the revenge, going after the cowboys, it starts to lose. It starts becoming a little bit repeat episodic. And
the narrative, that's where I feel like there was some incomplete scenes. The script had been changed a lot. Other stuff had been dropped. So it's like, okay, well, we've dropped that Jason Priestley subplot. So now but the scenes of that strung this and this and this together. Because that was the reason that Cactus Jack or and the other guy, Michael Rooker's character, Masterson. That was the reason that they left the Cowboys, was because Billy Zane's character was killed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but of
you didn't
course,
get the big sense of that.
no. I think the historical moments have all been sort of chopped and changed a bit, and
yeah,
and I think that's where, look, I'm not dissing on Tombstone. I freaking love it. It was the movie that for me made me love westerns. It was because when it came out in, I didn't grow up with a lot of westerns. I wasn't exposed to them very much, the Clint Eastwood movies and so on. So really, for me, the Tombstone in '93, when I was like 20 something, in my late teens, early 20s or something, that was the film that really opened my eyes to the Western genre. And from that, I went back and rediscovered a lot of stuff. But so I sort of got Tombstone to blame for that. So
I think because it does feel like a traditional Western. It doesn't, this is a Western movie, whereas Wyatt Earp just feels to me like a movie that's in the West.
Yes,
that's what makes the big difference. That's the big difference for me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. There is Wyatt Earp feels more like a movie. Yeah, it's got that sort of Hollywood. There's an artifice to it. There's a Hollywood artifice to
it does feel a little bit contrived, and it's disappointing to me because you have such an incredible cast there.
Yeah,
a great art direction, great production design, wardrobe, everything. Everything should have come together so perfectly. But of course, when you have an actor, and I know that Costner has mellowed considerably over the last few years, but I think it was at that period in his life where he knew that he could control an awful lot, and there was and
he is
would
a
say
director.
no to him. Yeah,
That's
of
right.
course,
And he is a director. So it's
yeah.
as Kevin Reynolds, the director of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, said, like, Kevin should just direct every movie he's in, because then he can work with his favorite actor and his favorite director at the same time.
I mean, there was a great story that was told by a British actor I won't name, who had met with William Goldman, and
screenwriter of A Bridge Too Far. The soundtrack
and he said, "What's it like working with Mr. X?" And he said, "Well, if you can imagine working with a guy who has never heard the word no, then you'll get the measure of the man." And I think this was a period in Kevin Costner's career where he never heard the word no. And I think it kind of shows.
Yeah. And I think the film ultimately suffers for it. However, I will say that I watched Tombstone first.
Yeah, me too.
I guess most of it did. It actually was the first one out of the gate. And but what I found interesting is that when watching Wyatt Earp a couple of years later, because I didn't watch it when it was first released, I actually liked the fact that what it did is it started to fill in some of the detail that I got curious. That Tombstone art got me thinking about a lot of questions, like who was Wyatt Earp before this time? What happened to him? Why did he become such a hard ass? And then watching Wyatt Earp is a nice way of filling in the blanks. It gives you more detail. And then you go, oh, that's cool. And it's sort of like, if you can watch both of them, and it's worth watching Wyatt Earp, I think.
Yeah.
To then go, because there is a lot of history and a lot more backstory, and you can kind of imprint one on the other to help inform Tombstone a bit more.
Yeah.
Well,
and I just try to imagine.
I have them both here.
Yep, they're the same copies I got.
Yeah, I bought. Hang on, this one. No, this one. I bought. Very confusing when you're looking at yourself. I bought Wyatt Earp on Blu-ray not that long ago, and I watched it for the first time since I saw it at the cinema, probably.
Wow.
And I remember when I went to see it at the cinema, the first 45 minutes was pretty depressing and very long-winded and felt like the first 45 minutes of The Postman, if I'm honest. When that's a film we could do an interesting stream on. But yeah.
One of the films that made Kevin Costner mellow and maybe realize, mate, your shit does stink sometimes. You know that.
yeah. Well, that was me. Anyway, let's not get into worst ending of a film ever. But yeah, man.
It is a bit of a slog of a film, but you know what? I've watched it so many times, and I actually do enjoy Wyatt Earp.
No. When I watched it as an adult, as opposed to kind of young gunfighter Lance, I enjoyed it a lot more. And you're right, it fills in a lot of the blanks. It fills in some of the earlier history, and it fills in what feels like a lot of tangible truths that were brushed over in Tombstone.
Yeah, I kind of feel personally, I mean, I feel that, anything that I really wanted to know about Wyatt Earp, I would rather have read a book.
Right.
I don't know. It just felt, it was one of those, it's one of those films for me that, if I wanted to go out to the kitchen and make a coffee, I wouldn't put it on pause.
Okay, I get that.
I'd let it run, and
of course,
but that's just me.
It's just occurred to me that, and it never occurred. I think it was probably triggered by something you said, Lance, earlier, and it's just triggered me. Why I think Tombstone is the stronger, and especially in the context of Costner controlling everything. The problem with Wyatt Earp, now that I think about it, is that it really is just about Wyatt Earp, and he dominates every scene. He dominates everything.
Yeah.
Whereas Tombstone goes, you know what? Wyatt Earp's awesome, but so is Doc Holliday. But so is Bill. So is Curly Bill Brocious. So is and every character gets their time in the sun, where the scene is about. It's all about Doc Holliday, or this scene is all about Curly Bill Brocious or Johnny Ringo, and they all seem to get this. There's no sense of the actor's ego dominating the movie. Kurt Russell's Wyatt Earp is so strong, but he's happy to take the back seat for a moment.
I mean, apparently he did pretty much tear out a load of pages of the script and said, this scene is really your scene. Rewrite those, and you can have that bit of dialogue.
Right.
He was a really, really generous actor / director.
It's almost like maybe that's why that film is stronger, because there was so little ego driving it.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely agree.
I can tell you a true story that Jason Isaacs told me, British actor, and he said that he did 2 films in a row. One of them was Soldier with Kurt Russell. Yeah. The other one was Armageddon.
Yeah.
And he said, working on Soldier, even though the film bombed and didn't do that well, it's not a bad film. He said was a delight to walk on set every day, because he said every time he was shooting a scene, whether Russell was in the shot or not, Russell was there to feed him his lines.
Yeah.
Russell was there to help him hit his mark. And, and if Isaac said, don't you want to go back to your trailer? And he said, well, why would I do that? Don't you want me to do the lines with you? Because hey, dude, I'm getting paid $25,000 a day. So I'm going to be here for your dialogue. He said when he did Armageddon, if anybody else wasn't in the scene, they were in their trailer. And he said most of the time when it was his close-ups or whatever, he was acting, no one else was there.
And I think this really kind of comes from Kurt Russell's background. He's being a child star. Growing up in the movies, knowing the movie business, knowing what would have worked for him when he was in those same positions. What he would have liked people to have done for him. I think that really kind of shows the generosity of this particular actor, which is why everybody loves working with him.
Yeah.
And it comes over in interviews. It's
a consistent feedback from lots of people is the joy of working with him.
I hear that all the time.
But how transformative from a guy that is that's like this, and yet his Wyatt Earp is so it's got to be the definitive Wyatt Earp because he's so intense, and you can tell he's such a tortured man. There's so much rage in everything he does, and it's all contained. There's so much rage, and I don't know. It was a mesmerizing performance. I mean, everyone always talks up Val Kilmer, which is totally deserved.
Yeah.
But I really think that Kurt Russell should have gotten a lot more awards.
Yeah.
And we should talk about the awards and how utterly ignored Tombstone was when it came to the Oscars and everything else.
Tombstone was didn't get any nominations. Val Kilmer was nominated at the MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah, but that's it. What about the Golden Globes? Because this was a Buena Vista film, which was Disney. Disney essentially financed this film because I think Kurt Russell has this very strong relationship with Disney because he was a Disney child star. But what I read is that very much, I think the problematic production of Tombstone, I think they just thought they had a lemon on their hands and they didn't promote it. They didn't really get behind it. They didn't send it off to awards. They didn't realize the gem that they had. And I think it was only once it came out that everyone actually go, oh, this audiences are responding to this. But they didn't put it forward for any nominations, and it should have, because Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer alone should have gotten nominations.
Well, look, it premiered 6 months before Wyatt Earp, December 24th, 1993, right? Wide release, not small release.
Yeah.
During its opening weekend, the film opened third in the US box office behind The Pelican Brief and Mrs. Doubtfire, which was obviously number one. And it opened on 1,504 locations. So that's a pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, they've got the money, but they didn't. I don't think the advertising spend was giant.
No, it probably wasn't.
And there was, and they also didn't, because, I mean, no, if you want to put up a film for an Academy Award, you don't just make it and the Academy comes knocking. You've got to.
Yeah, no, you've got to do a whole campaign
for it. Yeah,
they didn't campaign for it, and I guess that's a shame of it.
Let's compare that to Wyatt Earp. So it was released 6 months after Tombstone, grossed 56 million against a 63 million budget, whereas Tombstone's 73 million against a 25 million budget. It opened number 4 on the box office behind Lion King, Speed, and Wolf, but then dropped pretty swiftly, and basically it became a box office bomb. Dennis Quaid said, "I personally thought it was too long, but I am really proud of it."
Can you tell me again the comparison of the budget between Tombstone and Wyatt Earp? What was it? So Wyatt Earp was 25 mil.
And
63, I think.
No. Wyatt Earp's budget was 63 million. 63. Tombstone was 25.
Wow, so isn't that amazing? You've got the better. You've got the stronger is the cheaper one. This blows my mind.
10 million of that. 10 million of that, I'll tell you now, would have been between Gene Hackman and Costner.
Yeah.
For sure, and obviously probably Kasdan as well, who's also a director. He wrote it, he produced it, so he's in for a big paycheck as well.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing, though, right? Even though it was mixed to negative reviews from the critics as opposed to positive mixed reviews, accolades. So it was nominated for at the Academy Awards Best Cinematography. I agree, very good.
Wait a minute, are you talking about Tombstone?
No, Tombstone was not nominated for anything. I'm talking about Wyatt Earp.
That's bollocks.
Now, yeah, but wait, listen to this though, man, because this you probably don't know. Now, it was nominated for an outstanding 5 awards at one ceremony and won one of them. Do you know what ceremony that was? Anyone in chat? It was the Golden Raspberry Awards. The one where famously Halle Berry went to collect her award for Catwoman, which I thought was so cool of her.
Yeah, bless her.
So it was nominated for the following: Worst Picture, Kevin Costner and Lawrence Kasdan, Jim Wilson. Worst Director, Lawrence Kasdan. Worst Actor, Kevin Costner. Worst Screen Combo, Kevin Costner and any of his 3 wives. Worst. That's literally what it was stated. Worst remake or sequel. Sorry, and it won 2 of those. Can you guess which
Worst-
of these?
It has to be
won?
worst actor.
Worst actor. It did. It won that, and it also got worst remake or sequel.
Wow.
So
Talk about taking a hit to the ego. Oh.
Yeah. It was nominated Best Drama Script at the Spur Awards. Haven't heard of those. It won that, and there was a couple of other little bits and pieces. Turkish Film Critics Association Awards, 18th place, Best Foreign Film. Oh, it's good to come under 20, I think, at the Turkish Film Critics Association Awards. If you can get under the 20 mark, I think that's you know.
I wonder if there's any enmity between Kurt Russell and Kevin Costner, because they made a film together a few years later. I wonder what that would have been like.
Yeah.
Did they? Which film was that?
I was a really it's a film that nobody remembers or really cares about.
Right.
It was called 3,000 Miles to Graceland.
Oh shit! I saw that. That's the one with all the Elvis bank
all the
robbers.
Elvis people, bank robbers. Yeah. And I thought they might have had some funny conversations on set. So
So
3,000 Miles to Graceland.
All right, look, seeing as we keep segueing into it rather car crashingly unintentionally, before we do some fun trivia, we might as well. Our opinions are fairly on the board, so we might as well.
Let's give our opinions on the 3 things. Best film, best doc, best WYATT, and then let's get some people to vote as well.
Okay,
so start voting.
So for those 10 people watching, put next to your name in the following order: the best film of the 2, the best WYATT of the 2, and the best doc holiday of the 2. So, for example, your answer might be Tombstone, Kurt Russell, and Val Kilmer, or your answer might be something else that I can't be asked to read out. So, so if you're gonna contribute to the voting system, please list all 3 in a single typed response. I'll start my summary. Look, I enjoy both films for different reasons, but the one that's got the ultimate rewatch for me and is just a more fun film is always going to be Tombstone. I prefer the casting overall. I definitely prefer the script, even though the script's a mess. And I definitely prefer the score. And I like the characterization better, but I feel the other film is a good footnote for filling in a lot of history that I enjoyed watching again, and I probably will watch another time. Certainly more than I'm going to watch Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny again, which is never. So so my vote is Tombstone, Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Inside Man.
Well, I didn't enjoy watching WYATT at all. I thought it was a slog. I thought it was a slog the first time round, and I've seen it a couple of other times, including this weekend just gone. It was painful to watch. I thought the acting was absolutely appalling. I couldn't.
Don't hold back. We know you're off camera, so don't hold back.
I couldn't bear to watch Kevin Costner for a second longer. I thought it was a terrible WYATT. There were some historically accurate moments in there, but it didn't mean anything to me. The score was great, although I think it's a reappropriated score for this film. That's my suspicion. Tombstone, what can you say? Really well directed, brilliantly written, well acted, all round. And I mean all round. I don't think there's a single weak performance in there. I love every single actor that's in there. I love every actor that's in WYATT, but I just don't like their performances in it. Love the score, Bruce Broughton's score for Tombstone. Art direction, fantastic. Wardrobe, amazing. And it just felt like a proper Western movie. It didn't feel like it didn't feel like something that was cobbled together. Whereas I think White Earp really did feel like something that was cobbled together. It felt like a real proper good Western movie, like I remember them. And that's my view on Tombstone and White Earp.
Matthew,
Cool.
I hate to say you might sound like a broken record, but
well, look, I'm going to say that my preference out of the two is hands down Tombstone. However, I have a soft spot for White Earp. I have grown to like it a lot more. I didn't like it the first time I saw it. I will say I did not like it. Borderline hated it when I first saw it because I was too in love with Tombstone. But over the years, I have rewatched it and grown to enjoy it more than Inside Man. And but I do see that it definitely the weaker of the two. However, if Tombstone didn't exist, let's just say Tombstone never got made, I would probably think more fondly of White Earp than I do. But because I've got the comparison of Tombstone, it does fade away. I do agree with you, Inside Man. I think Kevin Costner was woefully miscast as White Earp. He doesn't have at that time in his career, he just did not have the gravitas, or he didn't have the intensity or something that Kurt Russell brought to it. I like the Doc Holliday portrayal of Dennis Quaid. I've got to like it more and more.
Yeah, he does a good job.
I think he did a good job, and it's a different type of. He was far less likable in Wyatt Earp as a character than he was in Tombstone, but what Val did, even though that may be a little more fantastical and maybe not as historically accurate, I don't know. It as a characterization, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
I think I like Tombstone because it did what Wyatt Earp didn't do. It made the villains strong. You got to have good villains in a Western, and it set the villains up in that opening sequence when they came in and killed those people at the wedding. And then with Ringo shooting the priest, it just went, here you go. Here's your bad guys. And then step off the train. Here's your good guy. And I think the good guy back, but your good guy with which again, Wyatt Earp didn't do. The good guy of Kurt Russell is
an anti-hero
himself. Yeah,
he's an anti-hero in the best possible way.
Yeah, he slaps people around. He's bad-tempered. He's a bit blunt with people. He's not a
very
good
abrupt
guy. Yeah, but there's still a moral code.
He's a savvy businessman and a bit of a cutthroat one.
Yeah,
who doesn't take any nonsense.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
But he probably wouldn't go south on a deal with you. He wouldn't backstab you because he's got.
Apparently, that was exactly what White Earp was like.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting to have your hero to almost be perhaps a villain, if only he would tip this way, but he tips this way. So therefore, he's a good guy, but he really rides the line between a guy that could actually be a very good villain. And I think that's what makes the characters so compelling. And even Doc Holliday, I mean, he's a boozing, gambling, kind of degenerate character, yet he's so compelling. And ultimately, there's a heart of gold in both of them, even though they are men of that very hard world. Can
I add another reason that none of us have mentioned as to why Tombstone tips over White Earp for me? Yeah. I think it's quite a crucial, important.
What's that?
2 words. Joanna Pacula.
Joanne Pacula.
She's very enticing in the film. Yeah. She might not be the most physically accurate version of Big Nose Kate ever to be committed to the Western celluloid, but I love the scenes with her and Val Kilmer. It's like, honey, we may have to redefine our arrangement. And she comes in wearing some sexy basque and is getting into bed with him. And he's like, on the other hand, you may be the
Antichrist. It's probably one of the most quotable Westerns ever is Tombstone. But I have to say, I had a monstrous crush on Dana Delaney after watching that film.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's actually
Yeah.
that's interesting. You say that because your wife looks a lot like Dana Delaney, actually.
Yeah, it's the
whole
dark,
Dana
it's the
Delaney
dark
thing.
long hair thing. I
Yeah.
thought
Gets
Dana
you every
Delaney was,
time.
it gets me every time.
I better ban all the dark long-haired actresses from coming to the
Yeah, they're
acting
not allowed.
workshop.
Don't bring them near me, mate. Go away.
Let's before we get on to sort of trivia and head towards wrapping up, let's have a look at what people have been saying in the chat.
What
So
the
Leroy
audience-
Peters agrees with Matt. You're damn right. That's bollocks. So I think that's where the awards.
yes,
Melvin
where
D.
there was no nominations.
Kilmer and Dennis Quaid's performance as Doc are both outstanding. I would agree. They're both very different, but both good performances.
Different, but both good, very good.
I didn't enjoy Dennis Quaid at all. I didn't enjoy him in this movie at all. I
Interesting.
really
You're
didn't.
miserable inside, man. So you're allowed to not enjoy him. That's
See, things-
okay.
No,
see, I
can I ask you?
Yeah.
Can I ask you? Didn't enjoy his performance, or you didn't enjoy the character?
I didn't enjoy the performance or the character.
Okay.
I'm just
clarifying.
I really didn't.
Because sometimes you can hate a character in a movie so much, but you can acknowledge the good performance.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
he just I thought he lacked charisma. I thought the character lacked charisma. His delivery was pretty lackluster. Maybe it's because I'm comparing him to Val Kilmer. I mean, I worked with Dennis Quaid a few years back, and he's a lovely man, and he's a terrific actor. Terrific actor. I just didn't enjoy him in this film at all. I really didn't.
Let me go back to the comments in the chat.
Fair
so
enough.
Leroy Peters says the fact that Tombstone didn't get an Oscar nomination is a crime and travesty of justice. Well, we covered that earlier, and
we agree with you, Leroy. It should have been nominated.
Val Kilmer definitely should have got Best Supporting Actor, and I would argue Kurt Russell Best Actor.
Yeah, it should have gotten production design, cinematography, and costume awards, and it should have had also the score should have got a nomination.
Score definitely should have got a nomination for sure. Bo caught some Kurt Russell last night on TV. Old Fave, Big Trouble in Little China, fantastic, of course. This year, YT short had me intrigued in Tombstone. Caught it soon after, like the comradeship, and Kilmer kills it. Yeah, we would agree. Kurt Russell does do a good Elvis, and I really like that Elvis movie. That would be a good.
It is a good movie. I saw that recently.
That would be a good movie to do 2 Elvis movies, and there's quite a few.
Oh, does that mean I have to watch Baz Luhrmann's?
No, we don't have to do the Baz Luhrmann one.
Oh, good, because I don't want to watch it. I don't want to see it.
Maybe we need to put you through that though. So here are the votes coming in. So David Macy, same as us. Tombstone, Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer.
On you, Dave.
Leroy, same again.
Well, here we go. I think we're on a Vin
Diesel's lesser known, smaller statured brother. Tombstone, Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, and great to see.
I think we've got a sweep. Tombstone wins with a sweep.
Vin, I've seen you on other streams, so thanks for coming on my channel, mate. Much appreciated. Melvin Deep, excuse me. Same again. Leroy Peters says WYATT is one of those good movies that you only need to see once or twice. Yeah. I have lost count of how many times.
I think once.
I think I've seen it about 7 times.
David, new friend of mine on Facebook, Macy, has said Val Kilmer delivered the cinematic X factor for the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was a lovable rogue that had no fear of his own mortality and kept using that in a heroic and exciting ways. It is iconic. I would agree. Arguably the best performance of his career.
I think it is.
That and Heat, I think, are probably his two.
I like him more than in Heat. He's good in Heat, but this is such a good performance.
No, I mean this is more iconic. I think Heat just really shows his range because he was super restrained in Heat.
Yeah.
And it showed he could do that.
This is absolutely his best performance.
RRTN.
I did like him in The Doors. I thought he was great in The Doors.
Best film, all the same. Far more entertaining. Russell really solid, and you get invested in him and his quest for a better man. Kilmer up there with Ledger's Joker for legendary performances. I would agree with you.
Yeah.
To me, it's like the cast and crew on WYATT did not enjoy making it, whereas the opposite on Tombstone. Well, I think that both
absolutely spot on. Yeah,
but probably working under Kevin Costner was a different experience.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to hear a sad story? Oh no, we'll come back to the story afterwards.
Yeah, let me finish the comments. Leroy Peters, I cried when Morgan Earp died on Tombstone. The late Bill Paxton did a great job. He really did, because he was kind of all young and naive in a way, and all up for the adventure, but didn't kind of know what the cost was going to be. I like the actress who played Morgan's wife as well. She was good.
Because you basically got the same scene in both films, almost exactly the same. Like they're on the pool table, and yet the one in Tombstone hits you, but the one in WYATT, I can't even remember it. And I've seen the film 7 times, and I still can't remember it.
No, it's not as. Leroy Peters agrees with the Inside Man. He did not enjoy neither the performance nor the character nor his underpants.
Well,
and he's also yet to see either of the Elvis movies, or indeed perhaps any.
Just watch Kurt Russell's one. Don't worry about Baz Luhrmann's.
Keith is just saying that the other live performance has just ended. Oh, that's Retro Nerd Girls one. I wonder if she wants to come on. She's certainly welcome to pop in, even if it's just to say hi.
Wow. Thanks for inviting everyone, Keith.
Yeah, thanks, mate. That was a great stream. It was Retro was doing patriotic movies, which literally covered such a wealth of plethora. She had a list of 209 films, and
wow,
I think we were only at letter H when I left.
So American patriotic or UK
no,
patriotic?
Patriotic. Full. I mean, I had a whole like stack of vinyl records here for films that I thought qualified, like White Nights. Good Morning Vietnam was actually on her list. That was not on the list. Then I had,
is that a patriotic movie? Good Morning Vietnam?
Yeah, I was about to say the same. That's not that patriotic.
It was on her list. It wasn't on my list. It was on her list.
I think it's really anti-patriotic.
I had the 2 Rambos. I had Top Gun. I had Rocky.
Top Gun, yeah, that's patriotic.
I had Rocky 4. I had Red Dawn. And I would argue that one of the most patriotic American films of all time, I would argue, is Stand By Me. And I can certainly get into that, but that's an argument for another time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. Okay, yeah.
It's a depiction. It's a depiction of an idealistic American life seen through the eyes of children, of an America that no longer exists. But you could argue,
I wouldn't have thought that it was idyllic. I mean, those characters are living pretty hard lives anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's an idyllic view of.
They got dads that beat them up and everything. It's
but it's still like that innocent time of like before Vietnam, and they are all going through shit. But I think I still think it kind of makes you want to live in small town America when you've watched that movie. And be those kids,
yeah, for sure.
Have that adventure, and go.
It has a nostalgia for sure.
I wouldn't go rushing to look for a dead body. I found one once by accident, and that was traumatic enough, I can tell you. So, true story.
Yeah,
no, I did. I was. It was on a nature reserve, and I was walking through the reserve, and I found someone who'd hung themselves, and I thought that they were actually like staring at me through the trees, because it looked like they were standing. I couldn't see. I called out to them because I got completely freaked out, because I thought, why is that person staring at me? And I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. And then as I got a bit closer, I saw the rope, and I could see they were just 2 inches off the ground like that. And it was fuck, man. That was a horrible experience. And I had to go. I had to go run out into the road and flag down a car. And then they took me to not a paintballing site, but like a off-road buggy place that was next door to the nature reserve. Wow. And they called the police because one of them had a proper old school brick mobile phone. This was in the early 90s, mid 90s.
Wow.
And his name was Toby Jobson, because I had to go to the coroner's court and give evidence when I found it.
Wow.
Yeah, never.
That's horrifying.
That was a monologue in one of my plays.
Yeah, right.
That's why I remember the guy's name. And you kind of heard everything. I heard all that. He'd lost his job, he'd lost his girlfriend, and he'd fallen out with his parents. All happened in 1 week. And mental health, man, it's a big thing.
Absolutely.
So fuck me. How did we go down that rabbit hole? Right, let's get back to this. So
clawing back out to Tombstone and WYATT. Here we are. We're back.
Yeah. Yeah, if you talk about a Stephen King movie, that's always going to open a door to something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
all Stephen
quicksand.
King. I blame that on Stephen King. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of the two films, there's no contest. I wanted to mention something because we're on the topic of westerns. So I started seeing a western miniseries. It was released in 2 parts. Oh man, I've forgotten the name. It's Johnson County War. Matt, have you seen it?
Never heard of it.
Well, that's the funny thing. Most people haven't. And do you know what? It's actually pretty good. And Burt Reynolds is in it playing a baddie. And it's loosely based on a true story. And it's on Amazon in 2 parts.
Is
And
it modern? Is it recent? Is it
2002?
Okay, so it's 20 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, a time when there was some decent stuff getting knocked out. It was predominantly shot for television, I think.
Yeah. So what's it got to do with Tombstone?
Well, it's a western, and I hadn't seen it before, and I know you're a big fan of westerns.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a segue, but I just wondered if I've only seen the first 20 minutes because I paused it because I thought I want to watch this properly. It's actually quite good.
Right. No, I've never even heard of it before.
I think, I mean, I don't know that you're going to love it. It's got a bit of a Lonesome Dub feel to it, but with more action.
Okay.
But you know, it's got Tom Berenger and Luke Perry in it, and the connection to Tombstone is Luke Perry. So there you go. There is a connection. Yeah. So, and I'd never heard of it before either. But I've just been sent Burt Reynolds' biography, the one that's written by Wayne Byrne. It's very, very good. It focuses purely on his movies, not his escapades. And that's one of the films in it.
I don't suppose you've read his autobiography, but Enough About Me.
What Burt Reynolds is?
Yeah, amazing book.
I haven't. I've heard it's good.
Honestly, it will make you weep when you get to the end. It will absolutely make you weep. It's beautiful. It's really beautifully written, and it's a kind of warts and all. And he doesn't hold back on himself either. He really doesn't. But it's a beautifully written book.
You often have good book recommendations. You must read a lot of good books.
A lot. Yeah. and bad ones as well.
Of course.
So any new people that have joined the stream, just tell us which is your favorite of these 2 movies. Who is your favorite WYATT and who is your favorite Doc Holliday? Assuming you've seen the other 2 streams, of course, the other 2 movies.
We also have Leroy Peters who thinks that who wanted to ask us, have we seen the Hatfield and McCoy's series starring Kevin Costner and Bill Paxton?
Is the Pope a Catholic? I believe Matt has the Blu-ray of the Hatfield and McCoy.
I do have it, and I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was great, and found it most interesting to find out that it wasn't actually shot in America. It was actually shot in Romania.
I could tell within the first 5 minutes of watching that film that it was not shot in the United States. I was watching it and I was like, God, this is bleak. It's all like leaves on the ground and everything's mud and it looks like Europe. It looks like Eastern Europe. And I thought that within minutes of watching it. I rented it. It was one of the ones I think I rented out of the video shop, you know. DVD, probably about a year or 2 before they closed down.
It took a while, but I started thinking, well, because it's set in Virginia, which is way over on the East Coast, I thought, oh, maybe it is more like this in Virginia. But yeah, interesting that they
David Mates said, can we take a moment to wish Val Kilmer well, please? In a bad way, it's so sad to see. Yes, we can.
It is. So who has seen Val, the documentary?
Yeah, I have.
It's well worth it.
It's heartbreaking as well because,
and it's well worth watching. It actually really changed my perception of Val Kilmer.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'd only heard bad things about him as a person.
So did I.
This was sort of it almost gave us it almost went, that's why you are the way you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like understanding, bringing understanding to a very complex man.
Yeah, and it was interesting in the sense that he was also quite self-critical of his own behavior at times, and you could really see there was that one brief scene between him and Joanna Wally, his ex-wife.
Yeah.
When she was either visiting him somewhere or he was visiting her. She had a big hat on. You could tell she didn't really want to be filmed. I guess she probably, reluctantly agreed to be filmed. And the tension between them was palatable. And that scene was so short, but the insight to their entire relationship was contained within about 30 seconds of footage. You could see the whole history of it.
Yeah.
In that one moment, and I was like, "Wow, man, this is pretty gutsy." And I guess because he knows he's on borrowed time, so it's his way of setting the record straight. In a fairly honest way, I think.
It is very sad, and look, it's sad that one of our greats, and clearly he was one of our greats. We perhaps just didn't know how great at the time, but that he is in such a bad way. To see both his physical appearance and his virility and his talent on Tombstone, and then to see how far his poor health has taken him, it really is it is heartbreaking that we will never get that Val back. It's very sad.
RRTNZ said that they met on Willow, and they did. However, it might be the case that I think he actually met her before that. He saw her in a play.
He did, yeah. They had met. They had. I think they might have even worked together on a play before Willow.
I'm not sure of the timeline of their exact timeline of their relationship. He saw her in a play, then he wanted to approach her in a pub, but he bottled it. Whether they ended up being cast purely coincidentally on Willow or not, I think it
was coincidentally.
When I saw her on Willow, my heart exploded at my chest. I went, "Oh my God, she just looks amazing." And Matt was sitting in the cinema saying, "I'm going to marry a woman with hair like that one day."
Yeah,
and you did.
And then Jennifer Connelly and The Rocketeer came along in 1992 and changed me to brunettes forever.
Oh yeah. Well, we're doing a stream about The Rocketeer, so we're going to do that. We're going to do that triple stream.
Yeah,
that triple film thing that when you're here. So in 2 weeks' time, Matt is going to physically be here in the Turnpike Lane studio, the Outcast Creative, with me, and we're going to do a program together on camera in the same space. Possibly with the inside man on In Space, and that's going to we're doing The Shadow, we're doing The Rocketeer, and we're doing The Phantom.
Three great lineup.
3 films, all based on old cartoon strips.
Yeah, pulpy 1940s comic book movies, all made in the early 90s.
Yeah, and talk about which ones we like of those 3 and which ones we don't and why. Next week, me and the Inside Man and possibly another guest are doing Running Scared and Midnight Run. I don't have a poster for that, so I've just whacked up an image of Midnight Run for the moment.
Yeah.
But Matt, if you have a spare 10 minutes in your time before you embark on planes and things, feel free to whack me one up. But don't worry if you can't.
What's the other film you're comparing it to?
Well, it's a Running Scared and Midnight Run.
Running Scared. Okay. All right. If I have a spare 10, I'll see what I can whip up.
Yeah. Melvin's mentioned, what about The Spirit? That came out around that time as well.
No, The Spirit was much later. The Spirit was 2000s.
Was it? Oh, yeah.
I'm
you might
pretty
be right.
sure The Spirit was 2000s. We're talking that's a decade or so later.
It's it's
like a black and white movie, The Spirit, right?
It was kind of done with those sort of weird graphics. The Phantom was 96. I want to say that The Rocketeer was 92.
I think it was
Rocketeer was 92, and The Shadow was 94.
And The Shadow was 94. But yeah, okay. And I don't know if The Spirit is based on. Yeah, The Spirit was 2008, and that was based on a graphic novel by Frank Miller, and it's got that 300 Sin
Yeah,
City
yeah.
look.
Yeah,
So
which is why I didn't watch it.
It's not in the same.
It's not
ballpark.
in that ilk. No, it's a different era. That was, well, you said 2008, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, different era.
Because I think The Shadow actually started off as a one of these old radio series, didn't it? I think that was
yeah,
and then it went to comic strip afterwards.
Correct.
Yeah.
Billy Zane for a Tombstone link. Okay, I don't understand what that means.
No, but Dr. Beast Hunter, I have met Billy Zane in person at an award show, and I was backstage with him. It was a hilarious award show. Loads of stuff went wrong, and it was an award for best scenography, and none of us are still sure entirely what that meant. But he, I when I approached him, I said, would you be offended if I told you I absolutely loved you in the film Dead Calm? Because I do. I think that's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Great movie. And he said, no, sir, I wouldn't. And you're sounding very British. And I said, well, that's because I am, and I'm in England, although I am technically Danish, and I'll be waving as my Danish patriotic flag for Patriots Day or July 4th or whatever. Yeah, but he was perfectly pleasant with me. I think because of the way I approached him, and we chatted for about half an hour because we were stuck up there, waiting to kind of be told, let's go. Because I think I can't remember if I was presenting an award or what I was doing. I can't remember. But I got to go backstage and hang out in the green room with people, and that's when I met the guy who played Cassius, or one of Glavus, or one of the bad guys in Spartacus. Because you and I, Inside Man, are going to do a Spartacus TV series stream probably later this month sometime.
Oh, listen, I've got an idea for maybe another one if you wanted to.
Go for it.
And it would be Judge Dredd and Dredd.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Stallone's Dredd versus the other.
Yes,
I think I know which one's going to win. But
but there's a lot to say about both films, though.
There is,
and I did actually work on the pair of them as well.
Ooh. Well, I was an extra at Shepperton in Dredd.
On Dredd.
Yeah. There's a picture of me. This is in the Stallone one. There's a picture of me in total film with my big long black coat on, which I think I still have somewhere. I went to visit a friend of mine who was working effects department for Magic Camera Company on Shepperton. And he said, do you want to go and look at the Dredd set? And I was like, yeah, cool. So I went and looked at the Dredd set, and it was all up there and everything. The building was very tall and it looked very cool.
Yeah.
And then I saw a sign that said Dredd Extras. Anyway, at the time I had long black hair down to my arse. And I came back to see him at a different time, and we missed each other. And I had my long black coat on and was all looking very goth. And this AD came running up to me and said, you're late. You've got to be, you're on set. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah, cool. And just sort of like let them like rush me into this thing. Great. Okay. Stand there. And right. Okay. Yeah. Because I think the filming had got delayed, and I think a load of people are like fucked off to the pub. So they say, because they had a pub in Shepperton.
Yeah.
And then there was also a pub just outside the gate. So this AD was running around trying to find all these extras that got like so pissed off that they've been waiting for hours for whatever reason.
Amateurs.
And it was it was mainly night shoots on the thing. Because I remember this was in the early evening and the sun was just going down. Anyway, I ended up sort of standing under a sign that the neon sign said sex food store. And I was standing under it. And there's a picture of me standing under it. You can see it's me in silhouette, but I'm standing under it in a shot in total film back in the day. And I just worked on it for that day. I didn't even get paid because I wasn't officially on the roster. He just said, you're one of the extras. And I just said, yes.
Well, that's what you do, right?
I never told my mate that story because he would have been so pissed off with me. And,
I'll tell you what I will do. Because I've got a few sort of bits and pieces from Dredd, I think, lurking around in my loft. What I'll do, I'll see if I can pick out a prop that maybe on the stream we can actually use as a competition, maybe to draw a few people in,
Okay.
if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm well, look, for my mega anniversary stream, so guys that are watching, my mega anniversary stream is this Sunday, the 10 of you that are watching, and I am going to have some memorabilia. I'm going to have some memorabilia, film memorabilia, to give away this Sunday if I go over 2,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I'm really close. So, and obviously,
Oh, you are close.
yeah, guys, I'm hoping you're going to pop in at some point. I'm going to send you guys the link. You will still be in Australia at that time, Matt.
I will
think.
be. I will be.
The stream is going to run from 6 p.m. UK time to 2 a.m. on the Monday morning.
Yeah.
So that's a big window where people can come in. Melvin's saying it's 1.99. Now, does that mean I've only got one subscriber to go, or does that mean I've got 10? I don't know. I don't understand these short.
No, I don't get it. You'd have to go into your analytics and get a definite number.
Well, if we're 10 away. There we go. So, and it might be, but anyway, there's going to be some prizes. There's going to be a little bit of a quiz. So, and I'm going to have different guests dropping in throughout the stream, some of which I hope will cover me for a bit when I dash to the loo and things like that. But it's going to be a mega long stream. I'm going to be on for 6 to 8 hours, something like that. It's quite long. So I can handle it. Fine.
So look, I've got to run in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, so let's wrap up.
A couple of just for those that just a couple of little tidbits on Tombstone, a little couple of bits of interesting trivia.
Yeah.
Did you know a WYATT EARP trivia that Michael Marsden, who plays the Sam Elliott role in WYATT EARP, the brother of WYATT, Virgil Earp, Michael Marsden turned down the John Travolta role in Pulp Fiction so he could go be in the WYATT EARP movie as Virgil.
Damn, I did not know that, and I bet
talk about a bad career move.
Here's another little bit of trivia that Val Kilmer's lines were directly taken from all of the records that were written of Doc Holliday's dialogue verbatim.
Yes, they were.
And there was one particular line. What is it? I'll be your huckleberry.
Yep, I'm your huckleberry. Yep.
Yeah. Apparently, that was slightly corrupted because in the South, a huckle, it was slang for the handles on a coffin.
That's right.
And it was, I think it was originally "I'll be your hucklebearer."
Correct.
Right.
Meaning,
I'll be your hucklebearer. I'll hold your coffin. I'll be your coffin bearer.
Yeah.
So that's why when he's comes out to Michael Byrne, I'll be your huckleberry. That's what he means. I'm going to kill you, so I'm going to carry your coffin.
Yeah. I'm your hucklebearer. I'm basically the guy that's going to carry you away dead. Yeah.
That's great.
But for some reason it has become huckleberry, but it's I'm your hucklebearer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
another interesting tidbit. Did you know this? All the moustaches and beards in Tombstone were all grown for real. None of them are fake. So even
and it bloody works.
Yeah, no, it does. Can't vouch for the Costner film, but and of course, in the Guinness World Book of Records, do you know which movie has the highest number? And I know some of the people in chat will know this because I mentioned it on a stream the other night. Has the highest number of fake moustaches and beards in a single film ever?
Oh, Big Gettysburg, right?
Correct, Matt. Gettysburg it is.
Well done.
Yeah.
Gettysburg it is.
Because that's got the worst beards and moustaches in film history. It's terrible.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I think if
It
you
looks so fake. It's a good
Yeah,
movie, but the beards and the moustaches are just
But if you look at if you look at the paintings of people of the style and the fashion of the time,
yeah.
the shape and everything of them is bang on. But because they're so unusual and that those styles are so forced, that unfortunately accentuates the fakeness of them.
Of those moustaches,
I
yeah.
think it amplifies it. So
Yeah, it doesn't help. But
I think it's less that they did a bad job. They went all out to get them as they looked in the paintings and the photographs to match the various historical characters. But
yeah, it's just a shame. I just don't think they were made, or maybe they didn't have the technology to make beards or anything. It's a hard thing to do. On The Legend of Ben Hall, I had the mustache fake beard thing problem. And I actually had, in the first part of the film, those sideburns you can see on Ben Hall, I actually had to digitally add the sideburns we had were so bad that I had to digitally add sideburns for the first third of the Ben Hall movie.
Wow.
And you can't tell the guy who added the digital sideburns over the top of the bad ones, and he did an amazing job, and nobody's ever watched it and commented. So thanks, digital.
That's amazing.
That's good use of digital. The best digital effects, the ones that you can never tell.
Don't notice.
Unlike Superman's mouth. Melvin said, I knew that Vic Vega and Vince Vega, yeah, because of course what he did was he named John Travolta's character after the character in Reservoir Dogs and kind of technically made them brothers that existed in the same world.
Right. But there you go.
RRTNZ was really pleased that we brought up that tidbit about the dialogue. Leroy as well.
Yep, this is funny. Yeah.
I use a real life WYATT quote when I teach maths. Fast is fine, but accuracy is final. Yeah, that's Paul Bear and Leroy likes. Yeah, Gettysburg is a good film. Mate.
It is a good film. I just don't like the beards and wigs.
Amazing score.
Apparently, according to the Michael Bean's interview, he apparently had a run-in with. Apparently, when George he claims he only says three. He said 3 words to George the whole time because he turned up on set as the replacement director, and Michael said he just watched him for a couple of days to see what he was like, and apparently he was rude and he was yelling horrible things.
Yeah, he swore
at people, and he was nasty. He was just a dickhead. And then apparently his first scene came up, and apparently George came up to him and said, "Okay, this is what I want you to do." And the only words he said to him was, "Oh, that's right." He said, "I said 5 words to George the whole time. Nice, hello, or something, or nice to meet you, or something." When he first shook hands the day he turned up. Then 2 days later, when he had a scene with him, George comes up to him and says, "Okay, this is what I want you to do." And he said, "Go fuck yourself."
Yeah,
and that's all he said. And then he said, and then she said George never spoke to him again the whole time. He just did his thing, and George never gave him direction, nothing. He just left him alone. And I thought, wow, that's how you deal with an egotistical director. You just tell him, "Screw you," and then he'll leave you alone for the rest of the shoot.
Yeah. My George story was about the film Leviathan, which was one of the 3 underwater films you had. You had Deep Star 6, which was the Roger Corman one, which actually I think is a really great fun B movie. And then you had The Abyss, of course, which we didn't really get to see the good version until the director's cut came out. And you had Leviathan, which I've got the vinyl soundtrack for down there. I've rewatched it recently. It's not a film that's aged well. And I saw it at the London National Film thing on the South Bank. They did a special screening, and Mike Valentine, who's a specialist at underwater photography, was there. And he said that the agreed credit for him on the film was second unit director, and he just got credited for underwater photography. And he said the same kind of stories, that George would just kick off on random tangents all the time. And they shot all this great stuff for the film that didn't even end up in the final cut. He said that the scene with the ending where the 3 of them were in the water with the black guy from Ghostbusters and all this stuff, there was a whole sequence shot underwater where he scratched his leg and this mouthpiece opened on the leg and floated out into the water, so you knew he'd been infected by the alien, kind of like the Thing, but that was never even used. And he saw that footage and he can't understand why Ernie Hudson's just kind of went, oh, it's cold, floated away a bit, and the next thing you knew there was a monster there. So yeah, it was a film with a lot of issues, and it was funny to have a guy that was the first time the film was ever screened in the UK, way before it was released. Didn't get an actual proper release until later, and it was gone like that. And it was so weird to have a crew member there who talks about all the bad things that happened on the film and why the film wasn't particularly good at a film's premiere. You know, I was kind of like, okay, so this guy didn't get on with the director then. But you know, so I sort of took everything you said with a pinch of salt until I heard the Tombstone stories, and I'm guessing, you know, it was the late 80s and people were doing a lot of coke.
And this is obviously the best film that George directed, but I think it was very much, he was very much just a gun for hire, and all stories do point to the fact that while Kurt didn't direct it, Kurt really was I guess you could call him the showrunner, and he was also very much apparently keeping the cast very happy
on side.
And on side, he was promoting helping them keep. He really held it. He's the one who held the production together, and George was really just a technician, I guess, of a director.
I kind of tend to think that it was in order to satisfy the DGA, really.
Directors Guild,
I think really that was it. So he was,
and you would have also had things like the insurance bond people would have certainly
could have gone into turnaround.
Look, to George's credit, it's a handsomely mounted movie, and the shot compositions are really lovely. It's classically shot, lovely wides that just stay on wides, and you really take in the world, and the great close-up. I mean, it really gets in nice and tight on its close-ups, which I love, because I think cinema is the landscape of the human face, and it is just I think he did a great job for just being a craftsman, you know, or a technician director. I think he did a great job, and I'm so glad that Kurt was involved, because he clearly was. He was the magic that made that movie, and his compadre, Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer, just as someone said, gave it the X factor that just took it to the movie.
They were definitely the fairy dust in that.
So Matt, are you trying to tell me that this is not George P. Cosmatos' greatest movie?
Oh, well, there we go. There's the contender.
We've so got to do a stream about Escape to Athena.
I haven't seen it, and it looks, from that poster alone, it looks insufferable.
It has one of the strangest scores by Lalo Schifrin. It's a really odd score. Just bizarre.
Well, it's very Greek. He used a lot of Greek. It's got that Greek vibe. Lalo Schifrin did the Skydivers score.
Yeah. Yes, he did. Yeah. I've got that.
And he used the same sort of instruments for that.
Yeah.
I do like one of George's first directing efforts, which was replayed on television in the UK endlessly. You must have seen it, Matt. The Cassandra Crossing with Richard Harris, where you've got the virus on the train.
Yeah. Is that when they try to get over the Berlin Wall?
Yeah, they send the train to the bridge that they know is going to collapse, and they intentionally try to kill everybody on board to contain the virus. You never seen it?
I think I'm mixing it up with another film. I don't think I've seen the Cassandra Crossing.
I mean, it's a sort of 70s kind of disaster.
Political thriller, sort of political kind of
disaster movie mixed in with action. I mean, it suffered from overplay on, Christmas TV kind of. Is that film on again? But I've
not a popular film in Australia. Not a popular film in Australia.
Well, it's got O.J. Simpson in it, so probably not. But I've seen it recently, and I actually think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. Jerry Goldsmith, wasn't it? Scored that.
Great score. Richard Harris is playing it straight and really going for it, and Hey, Lance Chaffin. The other Lance is here that was on the stream with me earlier. Anyway, guys, we better wrap this up because
I have to head
go.
in to Melbourne City for a meeting, so I better go. But it's been great talking about Tombstone.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're all on the same page on this one.
Yeah,
mostly. I mean, I think Lance and I are a little more favourable to WYATT than what the Inside Man is. But hey, that's cool because cinema
I'd watch
subjective.
I'd watch WYATT again in a few years. I'm not in a hurry to watch it again.
Yeah, but Tombstone's one of those. Tombstone's like cinema comfort food. You just got to put it on, and you know you're gonna have a good time. Like this is good. It's like a big cinema hamburger that just tastes good, and you just
Well, Matt, we might watch Cassandra Crossing when you're here. We got to.
We're not going to be out with the amount of movies you want to show me when I come over there. We are not going to do anything but watch movies. So,
oh, mate, that sounds like the perfect holiday to me. No, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to take you out to a couple of places and a couple of cool eateries
and shops to buy movies.
Shops to buy movies so we can watch more movies.
That's right. Yeah.
And then of course we're going to go and see Mission Impossible. Oh,
yes!
Inside Man. If you want to go the same night as us to see Mission Impossible, we are going on Sunday, the 16th of July at the 3:40 performance.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. What?
I got an idea, Lance. We should do a live stream Outcast Creatives straight after the movie.
Yeah, when we get back. Yeah.
Right there in the foyer let's just go live. Boom. And just do a straight out of the movie reaction.
I haven't got the YouTube on my phone.
I do.
Okay, well what we need to do is we need to set up. We can sort it out. We'll sort it out and do it as soon as we come out. Yeah, that would be good. That would be good.
Yeah. That will be cool.
We can do an in-depth stuff later.
And you know what also is really exciting? That we're not going to see Indiana Jones.
No, I've already seen it, so you don't have to.
Thank you. I don't want to see it. I never want to see that film. I don't want it to be part of my mental construct.
No,
I think it's more of a curiosity than a want to go and see. And I refuse to give Disney any more money.
I'm the same. I will not give them another $1. No more money.
I'm surprised that some of my friends are raving about it on their social media, but then I also have to acutely remind myself that these are actors, young actors, most of them, with very visible profiles in the industry. They're not going to go and voice a negative opinion about a major franchise because they're going to want to work for Disney at some point, probably.
Yeah. Whereas I would rather, I don't know, I would probably rather, eat a bowl of shit than work for Disney. So
I have done 6-7 times.
I think eating a bowl of shit is part of working for Disney. You may get to do the two of those things simultaneously. Listen, guys, we've had a great audience in tonight. Thanks so much.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Great to see so many of the regulars. Keith, RRTNZ, David Macy, of course, Melvin Deeply, Vin Weasel, Leroy Peters.
Leroy's
I'm going to mention these names. I'm going to mention these names while I can in the early days of the channel. The Basco scenario is new. Thank you so much for coming in. I think it's Lance Chaffin's first time on the channel today, so thank you for coming in. Don't know who that two-tone pictures bloke is. I thought I banned him.
Yeah, he's a prick, that guy.
Yeah, don't work with him. Bo Romeo has been in before a couple of times, so great to see you again as well. And Dr. Beast Hunter, new to the channel, I believe. Thank you also for popping in. Do spread the love, guys. Do check out the other content. We've got 31 industry interviews. The last one with David McGiffert, who is the first AD of all three Back to the Future films, and he did all of Sidney Polak's films. It's a really good interview. It's 3 hours long, and we need to get the watch hours up so I can get the channel monetized. So that's the big thing. So we are going to be back next Tuesday. Inside Man and I are going to do Running Scared and Midnight Run.
I
won't join you. I will be in the air on my way to the sunny England.
No, I'm going to do an Invasion USA watch party. That is that's probably gonna happen sometime over the weekend. Now it's my birthday party on Friday. Saturday, I think I'm going to some sort of barbecue. I might even include the Invasion USA watch party as part of my mega stream. I don't know. But the mega stream starts at 6 p.m. Sunday UK time. That's probably 1 p.m. for people on the East Coast and wee hours of the morning for people on the West Coast of America. Do join us on that stream. That's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of guests dropping in. Inside Man will be there at some stage. Matthew will be there at some stage, probably as he's boarding his aircraft. We'll be talking about all kinds of stuff. So we will see you all again then.
Yeah. Can I just do a shout out to our new viewers? Please, can you get over, have a look, check out the trailer for my new film, The Cost. Which will be coming out later this year, October in Australia, probably close to December in the UK. Check out the trailer for The Cost. I will put the link. I'll give Lance the link in our chat right there, and he can put it in the chat. So check out the trailer, share it around, see what you think. Because we are not just movie fans. The three of us here are also movie makers. So please check out our endeavors as well.
Yeah, so there you go. Matt's trailer for The Cost in the chat now. No issue there whatsoever. And guys, thanks again. Really appreciate your loyalty and coming in. I am going to do a few short notice reviews and streams occasionally. So if you ever do see me floundering online with two viewers, feel free to jump in. And in the immortal words of Chuck Norris, the Outcast creative does not sleep. He just waits to do the next stream. And I will see you all again real soon.
Bye-bye.
And we are off.